Good evening, all of you. So, in a previous class, we are going to discuss about decision-making statements and iterative statements or loop control statements. Now it is day 12. So, in day 12, we are going to discuss about arrays. So, on that arrays, we have to discuss about what definition of an array and what is the initialization of an array and what is the characteristics of an array, and after that we have to discuss about different categories of an array. So this is a day 12. So in the day 12 we have to discuss about arrays. So let us start what is an array. So before I want to start what is an array or define an array. So let us introduce why you are using an arrays. So I will give you one example why you are using an array. So this is an example. So in this example, I am declared the variable two times, like a is equal to 2 and a is equal to 4. A is equal to 2 and a is equal to 4. Then I need to print a value. So if I try to print a value, so then it will go and print the output of above program will be 4. So that means that for ordinary variables is going to hold only one value at a time. So for ordinary variables is going to hold only one value at a time. So that's why, so what is the last value we are going to assign to the a, so that value will be going to printed as a output. So for example, this is a program. So I am declare a is equal to 10, and after that I am going to print a value. So after that I am going to print the a value. So whenever I print a value, then I got output will be a is equal to 10. And similarly, so after that I am going to declare one more value to the a, that is 12. Then you need to execute once again. Now the a value will be 12 only. So previously the a value will be 10. So now after redeclaration of a, so that is 12, which will go to display. So that means that, so for ordinary variables, so these are ordinary variable initialization. For ordinary variables, it cannot hold more than one value. It cannot hold more than one value. That's why what is the last value you are going to assign to the a. So for example, I assign one more time, so 23. Then I need to execute once again. Then I got a is equal to 23. So that means that what is the last value you are going to assign to the a. So that value will be stored into the memory location. So that means that the first value will be stored into the memory 10. After that 10 will be replaced as a 12, and after that 12 will be replaced as a 23. So now the in memory the a value will be stored only 23 only. So that means that you cannot store multiple values for ordinary variables. So that's why, so if you want store multiple values at a time, then you need to go for arrays concepts. So if you want to store multiple values of variables, then you have to study about the arrays. Now we're coming into definition of an array. So what is an array? So it is a set of homogeneous data items of the same type that share a common name. So it is a homogeneous, that means it is a similar data types. So similar data items or similar data elements, and so all these elements will going to share only one common name. All elements. So for example, if I declare array size will be 10, so then all 10 variables is going to share a common name of a variable. And similarly, all the 10 elements will be having same data type. I hope you will be understanding what I am saying. So it is a similar data items of the same type, that means the same data type, and that share a common name. So that is the definition of an array. So next one, what is element? What is an element? So the individual values in an array are called as elements. So for example, 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So here 1 can be called as elements. So the individual values in the array are called as elements. And now coming to index. So what is index and what is a subscript? So each array element is referred by specifying the array name. So if you want access, or if you want referred each array element in array, you need to specify the array name. So array name and followed by number. So that number can be write in square brackets. So that will be called as a index, or it is a subscripts. So that means that each and every elements can be stored into a particular index number. So you have to write that index in square brackets followed by number. So that is called as the index or subscripts. So each array element is referred by specifying the array name followed by number within square braces. So it will be referred to as a index or subscripts. And you have to remember this array. So arrays are static data structures. So that means that once you can declare the size of the array, so that size cannot be increased, or that cannot be decreased. So why? Because it is a static data structure. So this is a declaration of an array. So the syntax of declaring of an array will be storage type, and followed by data type, and followed by array name, and followed by size, and the size will be write in a square brackets and followed by semicolon. So here storage type. What is a storage type? So that means that whether the array variable will be a automatic variable, or register variable, or static variable, or external variables. So that will be called as a storage types. So that means in storage type you have to store different types of variables like automatic variables, or register variable, or static variable, or external variables, and followed by data type. So it is integer type, or character type, or float data type, and so on, and followed by array name, and followed by size of the array, and it will be terminated by semicolon. So this is syntax of a declaration of array. So now let us see example here. So I want to use example. Here storage type is optional. So storage type is optional. Whether you can declare storage variables like automatic, register, static, and extend. So these are all are keywords. So auto is a keyword, and register is a keyword, static is a keyword, and extend is a keywords. So these all will be comes under storage classes or storage type. So here the storage type will be optional in arrays. Whether you can declare or you cannot declare, that is your wish. So but here I am not going to declare any storage types here. So just I will be use a data type, and followed by array name, and followed by size of the array, and it will be terminated by semicolon. So now I am going to declare array will be integer type of data. So integer, and followed by days, and followed by the size of the month will be 31 days. So next one, char book, and followed by 50. So the book title name or book author name is a 50 characters. Up to 50 characters you have to read the book name. And float followed by real, and followed by 10. So that means that it will go and accepted up to 10 real numbers. So this is example for declaration of an array. So now coming into memory allocation of arrays. So the memory allocation of array will be done like this. That means that the first element can be stored at index number 0. So every time the first value which will go and store at index number 1 and the second element which will go and store at index number the first element can be stored at index number 0 and a second element can be stored at index number n and so on. So the last element can be stored at index number x n minus 1. So that means that if we have a 10 elements, so then the last index number will be a of 10 minus 1, that is equal to x of 10 minus 1, that is equal to x of 9. So that is the last index of the array. So like that the memory will be allocated for the arrays. So if you have any doubts, you can please post your query in the chat box. So I will try to answer your queries later. So for first element can be stored at index number 0 and the second element can be stored at index number 1 and so on. The last element can be stored at index number n minus 1. So this is a memory allocation of arrays. So here I'm going to use a variable name or array name is x. So for all these 10 elements will be having same array name, that is x, x of 0 or x of 1 or x of 2, x of 3 and so on, x of n minus 1. So here x is a array name. So all these 10 elements will be share same array name and followed by same data type. So all 10 elements will be belongs to integer data types, or all 50 characters will be belongs to character data type, or all 10 real numbers can be belongs to float data types. So that is a memory allocation of an array. So next one, initialization of an arrays. So the syntax of initialization of an array will be storage type and data type and array name and followed by size is equal to list of values. So here the list of values can be right in between open curly brace and closing curly brace, and it will be terminated by semicolon, and inside of the list of values will be separated by comma. So with help of a comma we will go and separate the inside of the list of values. So for example, so int marks, so int is a data type and mark is a array name and followed by the size of the array will be 7. So that means that we can enter up to 7 subject marks. You can enter up to 7 subject marks. So that is equal to followed by, so I want to write the subject marks in between open and closing curly brackets, and the each and every value will be separated by comma and it will be terminated by semicolon. So this is the initialization of an array. And similarly character. So if you want to initialize character, then you have to use char and followed by name and followed by 8. That is equal to, so that is equal to here I am using SUDER. Okay, yes in single quotes, comma UDER and followed by, so it will be terminated by the null character. So it is a /0. So in integer array, it cannot be terminated by null character. So whereas if it is a character array, so after writing of characters you have to store null character. At the end you have to store null characters. So next one, float amount. So in this example I am not going to mention size of the array here. So amount followed by empty square brackets is equal to followed by list of values. So here I am using a 4 list of 4 float values. Okay, 4 float values. So that means that at the time of compilation of this line, so it will go and allocate the sufficient memory space for all the elements. At the time of compilation, so it will go to allocate the sufficient memory space for all these numbers. That means that the array size will be here. Here I declared 4 elements. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's why my array name will be 4. So that size will be allocated at the time of compilation of the program. So whether you can declare the size or whether you cannot declare the size, that is your wish. If you not declared at the time of compilation, so it will go to allocate a sufficient space for all the elements. Now this is a memory allocation for the array. So here I am going to declare marks here. So marks, here I am using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 marks I am going to read from the keyboard. So the first value will be stored at index number 0 and followed by mark. So mark is a array name. Mark is the array name. So if it is a 10 elements, all the 10 elements will be having a same array name, that is a mark of 0 and a mark of 1, mark of 2, mark of 3 and mark of 4, mark of 5 and mark of 6 and so on. So the name will be common for all the 10 elements, or the name will be common for all the 20 elements or all the 100 elements, and all these elements will be having only integer type of data. So it will be contain only integer type of data. So that means that all the elements having same data type and the same array name. I hope you'll be understanding what I am saying. So an array is a similar data items of same data type and the same array name. So in this example, all 7 elements having same array name, and these all elements are same data type, that is the integer data type only. So now here I declared first value, and that will be stored at index number 0, and second value that will be at index number 1, and third value at index number 2, and fourth value at index number 3, and fifth value at index number 4. So but here the index number 5 and index number 6 I'm not going to use marks. So if you are not going to use marks, then that will be filled with 0 by defaultly. So in memory, which will going to fill with 0 by defaultly. So that means that you are you are declaring the size of the array will be 7 elements. So but you are using only 5 values. We are using only 5 values, and remaining values, if you are not use or if you are not initialize, that value will be filled with 0 in the memory. At the time of allocation of memory, it will be filled with 0. So that means that you are wasting the memory space. So you are wasting the memory space. So you are not going to efficiently using of memory of an array. So that means that you are declared the size of the array will be 7, but you are using only 5 elements, and remaining elements will be filled with 0. That means that you are wasting the array space. So the memory will be wasted here. That is one of the drawback here. So at the time of compilation of this example, you are not going to increase or you are not going to decrease the array size. So if you are using only 5 elements, that value will be stored at index number 0 to and so on, and remaining values will be filled with the zeros only. So that means that you are wasting the memory space. So that is one of the drawback of using an array. So these are the characteristics of an array. So the first one is the array name should be a valid identifier. So the first one is array should the name of the array should be a valid identifier. So that means you must follow the identifier rules for writing of array name. So that is one of the characteristics of an array. So second one, the name of the array should be unique and similar to other variables. So what is how we will going to use variables in a general program? So same variables will be also used for arrays also. So that is another characteristics of an array. So next third one, the value of elements stored in the array should be of the same type. So what are the values will be stored into the memory? That should be same data type. So I said that here I am using all are in integer data types only. So it will be using only integer type of data. So that means the values of the elements stored in the array should be of the same data type only. And now coming into applications, so where the arrays can be used. So, or what are the operation can be used with help of an array. So first one, insertion. So we can insert the values in an existing array at particular position. So by using arrays, we can perform insertion operation, and by using an array you can perform deletion of an element at a particular position. And by using an array you can travel from index number 0 to up to last index number. And by using array you can perform sorting of the array. And by using arrays you can perform searching, like linear search and binary search. We are using arrays concepts only. So for searching for a value in an array, so we'll be going to use arrays, and merging as two arrays. For combining of two array values, we can use arrays concepts only. So these are all will be operations or applications of the arrays. Now let us see types of array. So what are the different types of arrays? So the arrays can be classified into three types. So one is a one-dimensional array, a two-dimensional array, and a multi-dimensional arrays. So it is a one-dimensional array, also called single-dimensional array, and a two-dimensional array. Okay, it is a two-dimensional array, and it is a multi-dimensional arrays. So what is the difference between one-dimensional array, two-dimensional array, and multi-dimensional arrays? So if it is a one-dimensional array, you have to use only single square brackets. So if it is a multi-dimensional two-dimensional array, then you have to use two square brackets. And if it is a multi-dimensional array, then you have to use three square brackets. So if it is a single dimensional array, or if it is a one dimensional array, then you have to use only single square single subscript. So if it is a two dimensional array, or it is a some multi-dimensional array, okay, you have to use two square subscripts. And if it is a three-dimensional array, so the multi-dimensional array is also called three-dimensional arrays, then you have to use three square index numbers, or three square we have to use. So now let us see one by one. So what is a one-dimensional array? So in one-dimensional array, you have to use only single square brackets. So this is a syntax of one-dimensional array. So storage type, data type, and array name, and followed by in a single square brackets you have to mention the size of the array. And how will going to access the elements in an array? So how will going to access elements of an array? So for example, I want access, or I want display 75. So I want display 75 value. Okay, then you need to identify that. So whether the 75 is there in the which index number. So in this example, the 75 is there in the index number 2. So clear. So in 75, so it will be available at index number 2. So here by using a index number, you have to access the particular value in a memory location. So with help of index number, you have to access the array elements. So in this example, if I using a marks of 3, then I need to access 88 element in the memory. So what I am saying means that, so with help of a subscript, we have to access the particular array elements in the memory. So this is an example for finding the biggest of 10 numbers using an array. So that means that you need to find out the maximum among 10 numbers. Maximum among 10 numbers, or maximum among 3 numbers, or maximum among 5 numbers, and so on. So here I am going to declare array. A, and followed by in square brackets I want to declare size of the array. So I am going to declare the array like this. So now after declaring of an array, now we have to read a number. So that means that out of 10 elements, how many elements we want required. So if you want required, if you want 10 elements, then you have to enter n value will be a 10. If you want use out of 10 elements, if you use only 5 elements, then you have to write n value will be 5 only. So that is a n value. So now after reading of a n value will be 10 or n value will be 5, then I'm going to use for loop here for reading the one by one element from the keyboard, and which will go and store into the index number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. So for that I'm going to use a for loop here. So for I is equal to 0, so why here I'm using I is equal to 0? So that means that the array index number will be start with a 0. So that's why here I'm using for I is equal to 0. And after that I'm going to use a scanner function. Then I want read array elements. So what are the elements I want read from the keyboard? That elements will be stored into a index number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on in the memory location. At index number 0, first value, index number 1, second value and so on. And after storing a number of elements in the memory location, then I'm going to assume that the index number 0, what is the value will be there in index number 0? So I'm going to assume as a that is a maximum number. So after that I need to compare, so one by one. So for comparing one by one, first element, so the first element always will be I'm going to take it as a 0. So that means that if your n value is 1, if your n value is equal to 1, so we are going to store into the memory location only one value. So that's why at the time, so what is the value which will be stored at index number 0? So that is only the maximum value. So in this example, I'm going to read 5 elements or I'm going to read 10 elements from the keyboard. So that's why I'm going to check with the index number 0, starting index number 0. So I'm going to assume as a maximum number. So after that, I need to compare with the next element. So that's why I'm going to use a for loop. So I need to compare with the index number 0 element in memory and index number 1 in the memory location. What are the values which will go store? Then I need to compare. So for comparing, I'm going to use if a of I greater than max value. So if a of I greater than max value, then I'm going to store a of I as a maximum value. So that means that for particular index number that will be stored as a max. So then after that, after completion of my entire iterations, then I'm going to print maximum number is followed by conversion symbol, that is a formatted string, and followed by max. So this is a program. So now I will go to execute this program. So in online, so I'm going to execute the program in online. So I'm going to using a online compiler. So you have to remove c1ava.h and you have to remove clrs here. So the online compiler does not accept this. Now you have to execute. So now it will be asking enter the n value. So my aim is to find out the uh, maximum number among 10 numbers. So but out of 10 numbers, I will be use only 5 numbers. So my n value will be 5. So then I need to enter 5 numbers from the keyboard. So I will execute once again. So I will execute once again. So now I'm going to copy and paste. Then I'll go for execution. So it will asking enter the n value 5, and after pressing enter button, now we have to enter 5 numbers from the keyboard. So I entered 5, 6, 2, 3 and 9. So these are the 5 different elements. Now while pressing enter button, then we will go and produce a maximum number. So out of these 5 numbers, it will go and produce the maximum value. So it is a 5 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So maximum number is equal to 5. I hope you will be understanding what I am saying. So first you have to read n value from the keyboard. After that, if your n value is 5, then you have to read 5 elements from the keyboard. This is a reading of array elements, and after that you can store the first value into the maximum. You can assume as a maximum, and for comparing next value you have to take for loop, and now you have to apply the condition if a of I greater than maximum value. So then you need to store on that particular index number as a max. Then you need to print maximum number. So this is a program for find outing the maximum number among 5 numbers or among 10 numbers. So if I change less than, if a of I less than minimum, okay, if I change as the variable minimum, if I need to find out a minimum value, so there is a small changes, that is if a of I less than minimum, so the variable is minimum, then you will get the minimum number among the 5 numbers or among 10 numbers or among 100 numbers and so on. So now I will go and execute the program once again. So now I need to find out the minimum value. So 5, enter. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, enter. So here my message will be minimum. So minimum number. My message will be minimum. Now we have to execute once again. So enter the value 5 and enter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the minimum number is 1. So just small changes that will be if a of I greater than followed by variable, that is a max. Okay, then we will get the maximum number. And if you use if a of I less than max, then you will get the minimum number. So if you use a less than, we will get a minimum number. If you use a greater than, then you will get the maximum numbers. So that is about example for a single dimensional array. So in the next class we will go and discuss about multi-dimensional array and followed by 3-dimensional arrays. So if you have any doubts for today's session, you can uh, post your query in the chat box. So if you have any queries, you can post it into the chat box. And if you don't have any queries, so all of you requested, if you have any doubts, you can post in the chat box. So the chat box will be only for those who are subscribe my channel. So those who are subscribe my channel, it will be available to send the messages. So all of you please be interact with me. So if you have any queries, you can send through chat box. So if you like this video, today's session, you can give a thumbs up. You can like the video, and if you are understanding today's session, please uh, give a reply yes. So please like the video, and you can subscribe the channel, so that you can done more interest in the session. So that's all about today class. If you have any queries, you can post it in the chat box. I will try to answer your queries. So otherwise that's all for the today session, and we will go and meet in the next class. So thank you. We'll go and meet in the next session.